Great. Okay, well, welcome everyone to this week's AHECS Lunch and Learn. So today we are focusing on the annual Employability Awards with a panel Q&A session, What Makes a Winning Submission? And this is facilitated by the AHECS CPD subgroup. So the panel this week includes some past winners and highly commended award winners from the Employability Awards. So that includes Sorika Walsh from South East Technological University, who won the Supporting Student Graduate Employability Award in 2024. Fanula Rahali, Niamh Mullen, Kira Talon and Pedro Nascimento from the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, Strategic Innovation Award winner 2024. Derek McGarry and Anna Green, National College of Art and Design, Strategic Innovation Award, highly commended, 2024. So before we commence the panel discussion and open the floor to questions, just a brief introduction to the AHECS Employability Awards 2025. So submissions are invited over 4 categories. 1, building effective partnerships. 2, supporting student/graduate employability. 3, strategic innovation, and 4, research-informed practice. We're delighted this year to welcome 4 new judges for 2025 and 2026. So the judging panel includes Paul Vance from KPMG, Leslie O'Loughlin, Enterprise Mobility, Fiona Doherty from Grad Ireland, and Judy Murphy, who is the former head of service at South East Technological University, Carlow. So the AHECS Employability Awards are now open for submissions through the link shared with members, and the deadline for submission is 5 p.m. on Friday, the 14th of March, 2025. So now I'm delighted to introduce Olga O'Sullivan from the University of Limerick, a member of the AHECS CPD subgroup, who will proceed with the first few questions to our panel. Thanks, Olga.
Perfect. Thanks, Deb. I suppose to start, I suppose lots of different universities have, I suppose, varying sizes of services. So if maybe each of our panelists could just give a brief overview of your service, that would be very helpful. We might start with Fanula for that, if that's okay.
I'm going to ask Niamh to take that, please.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks, Fanula. So thanks, Olga. Good to see you. So our service, there are 6 team members within the service. So RCSI is a health sciences university. So we offer undergraduate and postgraduate training. We have a student body size between both of the undergrads and postgrads of maybe about 6,000 students. So our service has 16 members, 4 of those are career consultants, and the remaining 2, Pedro, who's named here, and 1 other team member, predominantly work with the School of Medicine, and for the most part work on placement opportunities within that.
Perfect. Thanks, Niamh. And maybe over to yourself, Derek and Anna.
I might let Anna take the lead because really she's in charge of career services, not me.
You're being thrown under the bus there, Anna, if you want to take it.
Thanks, Derek. I'm Anna Green and I'm the Careers Advisor in NCAD, and I'm joined by my wonderful colleague, Derek, who's the Head of Innovation and Engagement at NCAD. So we're a pretty small college. We have about 1,500 students at undergrad and postgraduate level, and then obviously supporting graduates as well from a career perspective. So I'm the one and only careers advisor on a part-time basis in NCAD, but supported on an ongoing basis with Derek in his role as innovation and engagement head, but also supporting our students as they go out on placements, our Studio Plus placement program. So yeah, we were delighted to take part in the submissions last year. I'm in the role about 2.5 years. And Derek has been engaging with AHECS for a little bit longer, but yeah, it was a great process from start to finish. So really encouraging of people taking part.
Perfect. Thanks, Derek and Anna. And Sorika.
Thanks very much. Well, my name is Sarka Walsh, and I am working within the Careers Development Centre at Southeast Technological University, Waterford. So again, we are a small team of 4 who are supporting around 8,000 students. So the head of service is Angela Collins. She's head of service and careers advisor. I'm the senior careers administrator within the service, and then we're supported as well by Avril Wall and Laura Dunphy, who are careers administrators. In the service as well, we also have Rebecca Power, who's on the EU Connexus project. She's on the Careers Work package there, and that's just a partnership between 9 universities across Europe developing science and innovation hub.
Brilliant. And I said the reason we were asking that is that I know sometimes in talking to the different services, people will say, oh, well, I won't submit anything because my service is very small. Nobody would be interested in it. So it's just interesting to get a view that actually very small services, you know, have very interesting things that they can share and submit. You know, so there's nothing too small, you know, in terms of projects or innovations that are going on. I suppose, would you be willing to share a little bit about your submissions? Not the exact content, but maybe just an overview of it and the category, because I know sometimes people, again, struggle with trying to fit their idea in with a specific category. I leave it open. I won't call on anyone if someone wants to jump in first.
Okay, I don't mind going
Thanks,
hitting it
Sarka.
off first. So we submitted for the Supporting Student and Graduate Employability Award last year, and we submitted our project called Feature Friday, which was a weekly Instagram event which showcased between 8 and 10 companies a week on our Instagram profile. And these I suppose what we were showcasing through this were the main questions, recruitment related questions that we get asked by students. So companies would submit their answers to 8 questions. They could do it in writing or via video, and we would create Instagram posts each week answering, you know, a little bit about the company, what it is, who they are, what they do, what disciplines they recruit from. What is their recruitment process and application process, where students can find open opportunities, what skills that they look for in graduates and students, what hints and tips or a bit of advice would they give for applications, whether they have hybrid working opportunities, and also around the area of the benefits of volunteering on a student's CV, what impact that has in the employability process. So the project, I suppose, came to fruition from a previous project undertaken by Angela during COVID, which was a virtual careers event, and that was done to address students' concerns in 2020 about whether their job offers that had been given to them were companies still recruiting, etc. So we noticed then that for students that started their programs during COVID times, they were finding it a little bit harder to engage with companies, and they're finding a little bit of a disconnect. And to build the gap between that, we felt this project provided them with the very basic information. It was meeting students where they were at. So it was on a platform that students use every single day of the week. They always have their phone in their hand. It was posted to Instagram stories at a set time every week, but it was also saved to highlights. So it enables students to go back and view it at their leisure. And it provided just the main points that students really wanted to see without having to sift through volumes of information or websites to find the information. I suppose what made the project stand out was, as we said, meeting the students where they were at, but it was engaging all the stakeholders involved. So it was students, it was employers, it was the career service itself, it was academic staff, and it was also various student bodies, the Students' Union, peer-to-peer, class representatives, getting all their input on what students were looking for, and obviously what the employers were looking for. And then after one academic year, it was surveying them all to get their feedback and then implementing recommendations and changes as a result of that.
Okay. Thanks for that, Circa. So you had a really kind of, I suppose, well-rounded approach
Yeah.
to your submission. So
Yeah.
you were kind of overviewing the project, then I suppose even having a look back,
Mhm.
see where it went and tweaking. So all of that went into
Yes,
submissions. That's really interesting.
very much.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thanks, Circa. I don't know, would Fanula, Neve, Kira or Pedro like to come in?
Fanula, do you want to talk through?
Yeah, yeah, I can certainly do that. Thanks. So I guess where has this come from in terms of our project was designing your life, utilizing design principles to help our students formulate a plan for on graduation. And the impetus really behind this came from the School of Medicine changing the curriculum, and there was an opportunity where they instigated what they called a student choice week. And they were looking for modules for that week. So I was on my own at that stage before Neve joined, and I put forward a submission called Design Your Life based on training that I had completed. And it took a couple of years before the curriculum changed. And in 2022, the curriculum was in place and we got the opportunity to deliver our training. It was predominantly with the School of Medicine we started out with as a team within the career. So Neve, Kira and I completed the training with Stanford University for basically for academics and higher education. It was an online course and it covered the principles of design thinking. And we basically applied the design thinking principles, looking at our cohort of students and decided this would be a great tool set to share with a student in terms of our students are predominantly international students seeking to progress their career in different jurisdictions. So to provide them with good decision-making tools, to explore alternatives, to explore how they might craft a future career in a completely different healthcare system, and to give them the confidence in which to go do that, because some of our students might be sponsored and there are expectations maybe from family in terms of this is where you're going to go and this is what you're going to do. And so it was giving the students, I suppose, agency in terms of understanding how to manage and plan a career. Doesn't matter at what stage, but give them the tools. So that's really the context of where it came from. I think, Neve, I can say that our experience of it has been really positive. Students have really engaged in it. It's transformative. We called it a transformative experience for all of us in terms of both delivery and that journey that we take the student on during the week. So it's Med 1 and Med 2 students that we currently deliver it to. We've moved from a delivery of 1 week in the first year to this year, 4 weeks of delivering. And so that's, it does require resources. It's 5 days a week. It's a presentation assessment. So it is for academic credit. And it's a presentation that the student delivers on the Friday, and it's focusing in on their on-graduation plan. And I think, is that enough information at this stage?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thanks, Fanula. So again, I suppose you're just thinking about your submission. You were very much again kind of sharing the, I suppose the transformation of what was originally designed being the 1 week into the 4 week. And I just noticed you talked a lot about there about the student experience. So that would have been shared in the submission as well. Would it have been, Fanula?
Very much so. So from the very beginning, we thought about how do we, so the RCSI invested in us in terms of the training. They bought into the concept. And so we were very conscious that every time, so we were the only professional group offering this particular week within the student choice module. Since then, there are more services getting involved in that. Our colleagues in student welfare now deliver a week-long module. But the student experience was really key for us, because there's no point in delivering something when we don't see the result, and we needed to be able to quantify that. So as part of our process, our week long, we do a pre-survey and we do a post-survey. And also as part of the presentation template, there was a key, for me, a key question that we asked, which was, what is your top takeaway or highlight or insight? And it's been fascinating to see students reflect, and I'll just give you a quote here. I realized that health and playtime are as important as developing my career, because sometimes, particularly with medicine, they get so burnt out. That was a great takeaway. And then in terms of another quote would be, I love how my future career becomes clearer in terms of pathway, opportunities, and challenges as I choose this specialty. Because again, they're moving countries, moving jurisdictions. Some specialties are quite long in training. It's the implications of where they choose to go to train as, on graduation is really important. So that gave us insight into what they were taking away. So I do think reflecting on how you're going to deliver a program and put the tools in there to give you the information that you can then utilize to reinforce why this program is effective. And also from a student choice academic perspective, there was a survey of the students, and there were 9 questions asked, and consistently the DYL module was in the top 2, 3 of strongly agree on a Likert scale. So from an institutional perspective, our name was in lights, because people were saying, what's this DYL module? I want to know who's delivering that. What is it about? So we did get institutional focus. And we also invited heads of schools to the final Friday presentation, and they, I think, were blown away by the ambitiousness of the students in terms of where they were going, but the confidence that they had in terms of their plan.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Fionnuala. Derek and Anna, over to you.
Sure, I'll maybe go first, Anna. Back in 2020, when COVID hit, I was in a management meeting, and we were really struggling to find some good news stories to share on our website and social. And I've been teaching professional practice class to students who, let's say, may not have been confident about where their careers were going to go, particularly with a background in art and design, and how you might use a degree in art and design to find a job in the creative sector. So I came up with the idea of an interview series, and it's a really simple idea where I would just reach out to colleagues for recommendations on who we might interview, which, recent grads or prominent grads might have had interesting careers that would be good to focus on. And I developed an interview template, and all I would do is send it out to the grads that we wanted to interview to see if they'd like to participate in this series that we were calling Alumni Stories. And lo and behold, lots of them did. And it was really interesting because each of them have very, very different career paths. They're fairly unique to them. And really, it was designed to extract individual stories about their NCAD experience, what had brought them to NCAD in the first place, how they'd used that as a kind of a springboard for careers in the creative sector and beyond. And it was designed really to generate and impart inspirational anecdotes, tips and advice, and that we could share these with the students, particularly current students. And not only students, but their parents, because it's a bit of a leap of faith sending your child off to art and design school, compared to somebody who might be sending their child off to get a degree in engineering or medicine. So, the parents have to be brought along as well. And it was a great opportunity for us to really celebrate the very best of who are coming out of NCAD. So it was designed to sort of encourage, embolden, and build confidence. And a lot of the students, will have part-time jobs, but they often feel that, the skills and knowledge and experience they're getting in their part-time jobs have absolutely no relevance to them finding a job in the creative sector. And it's completely wrong. So it's really about sort of explaining to them how this transferable skill and knowledge and competencies can be applied in your career development journey. And what makes it more interesting for us is when you find an organic kind of career path as opposed to a linear career path, where one door closes and another one opens, and how you can really make your own fortune in that sense. So the series has been going for 4 years now. We have around 150 interviews. We're also extracting information and anecdotes and tips and advice from those interviews to put into another series that we call Motivational Mondays, and that's geared towards more, social platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and so on. Anna, I don't know whether you want to add to that.
Absolutely, Derek. I think that was a great overview, but I'd just like to add that the program was well established by the time I joined NCAD, and I joined when there had been a gap in service, so there hadn't been a careers advisor in place for a while. So I think to a degree, the alumni stories were helping to fill that gap. They were helping to inspire and to motivate a lot of our students and graduates. But as well as that, I think it while it was out there and it was appreciated by those taking part and by staff, I definitely felt that there was an opportunity for it to get even more recognition. And I think Derek had been putting so much work into it, and the benefits were there to be seen. I was immediately directing students and graduates to that section of the website, and then that was being reinforced by the Motivational Monday series as well. So for me, a big part of it was recognition of this amazing series that had been produced on a very scrappy budget, in a very small service that doesn't have an alumni officer. So I think the series in itself, was just the epitome of innovation. So I really thought that there was an opportunity to promote it there. And with that as well, I think, as we've outlined, we're a small college, we're constantly promoting ourselves as career services. And by putting ourselves forward for an award that was attached to AHECS, it raised the profile of AHECS within NCAD as well, because suddenly you had a lot of members of management, of just academic staff across the board that were kind of wondering, okay, who is this support network that we're engaging with as a college? So it definitely did a lot to elevate the AHECS profile as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Derek and Anna. And that kind of is a nice segue, Anna, into my next question, which is around, I suppose, what the impact of winning the award for your service was. So I think you talked about, Anna, I suppose, the importance of raising or getting the recognition for the programme, and then indeed raising the profile within the college, being associated with winning an award under AHECS. So that's really good. And I think, Circa, you'd mentioned, I suppose, the collaboration piece as well, I suppose, was something that kind of was important in your submission. But was there an impact to your service by winning the award? And I know, in fairness to Angela, she's a multi-award winner. But is there any particular, I suppose, impact of bringing home the trophy, as they say?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, the project itself was a very simple initiative. When you think about it, it wasn't reinventing the wheel. It was just finding a new way of delivering information to students, employers, academic staff, etc. What we did find is when we submitted for the award, we had almost 4 semesters worth of data to reflect on. And once we went into this academic year, semester 1 of this academic year, obviously in our communications out to the employers and out to the academic staff, it was now the award-winning Feature Friday event, and it definitely had an impact on the number of employers then engaging. I think we had over 70 in semester 1 this year engaging with the with the initiative. And again, we even found, say, from semester on to semester, we do have repeat submissions from employers, but we're also having a lot of new employers coming in. Avril and myself were going through our list for semester 2 this year, and the other day, and we were just talking about the diverse range of companies. Initially, when we started first, we noticed a lot of engineering, a lot of business, but the number of companies now that are coming on board that are recruiting across, I suppose, many underrepresented disciplines, what we would have considered, audio visual, arts, etc. We definitely have seen an increase in those engaging, those type of companies engaging with the initiative, but as well with the academic staff. It has definitely raised their awareness around Future Friday and how they can integrate it into their modules. We know a lot of staff get questions around careers and looking for information, and this has become a real element for them to direct students towards, aside from the career service itself, directing them towards this initiative to go back and have a look at it and find the key information that they're looking for before they come in, so they have some research done before they meet with the service.
Okay, that's perfect. So actually, Sorcha, that's very interesting. So not only, I suppose, can there be an internal impact, but also the external
Yes.
Lens that it can shine on things as well. So that's really interesting. Thank you. Niamh or Fionnuala, do you want to come in on that one? Just in terms of the impacts or potential impacts?
Yeah, I might start, Fionnuala, and then come in at any time if I'm missing anything. I think on a number of levels, to be honest, the award positively impact the service. And on one level, it was the impact that it had on the team morale. We were very proud that I think it wasn't the first time as a service we'd submitted for the awards, but it was the first time we were successful. So very proud, definitely had a very positive impact on our team morale. And the sense of validation around, like Fionnuala, as Fionnuala mentioned, this was something she'd been working on since pre-COVID. And then together as a team, we were able to work together on it in the latter years. And the sense of validation that we got as a team in actually getting this over the line and achieving an award. It most definitely raised our profile within RCSI. My goodness, we were sort of victims of our own success now, in that we're, constantly being asked, can you run something for us? Could you reinvigorate it and look if you could do it for a summer school? Could you look at it if it's for research, for all sorts of different programs and different schools within RCSI? And we've also, myself and Fionnuala, a year ago now, maybe more than a year ago, RCSI have a couple of sites, other universities' sites that they have around the world. So we were invited to go and deliver the program to a final year medicine class out in Perdana in Kuala Lumpur. So again, brought it out there. So we had the opportunity to do that, and I imagine that's, we might get asked to look at something like that again. But Fionnuala, have I missed anything there?
No, I think you've captured it all. I do think that I suppose the language around it invited. It wasn't. I suppose the title is inviting for people to kind of query it, so nobody felt that it was just. They all felt that they could do with it themselves. In fact, we got a lot of staff interest. What is this about? Can I do the training? And I suppose the other point that, Niamh, you've said there is that we have actually gone across all schools now, postgraduate and undergrad.
Okay. And I think that's very interesting, actually, both from, I suppose, the team perspective, just in terms of, I suppose, that sense of pride, and absolutely, but also that sense of validation, because I know sometimes within our organizations, I suppose we've always maybe been here, or we're, constantly delivering, but it's that maybe external validation too that can be quite invigorating for the teams. So that was very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I suppose we might open up the questions to the floor if anyone wants to submit a question. Not to put Niamh on the spot, but just something you mentioned, Niamh, putting you on the spot. I suppose you'd mentioned that you had submitted a number of times, but it was maybe one of the first times that you'd brought the trophy home. I'm just wondering, was there anything that kind of stood out to you as being different in this submission versus maybe some others that you might have submitted?
Yeah, Olga, there was, and something that Sorka mentioned in your submission, Sorka, and I think that was collaboration. So I think, and Fionnuala, come in here as well if there's something that I'm missing, but I think in previous applications we were a little bit siloed within the team with applications. So, you know, Ciara might have done one thing, I might have done another, Fionnuala might have done something else. Whereas this was a team collaboration, and it was very evident, I think, through the submission that it was much more of a team focus. So I would say most definitely the collaboration piece.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we'll open it up and see if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask. I suppose, look, we're all on the call here because we want to learn, so don't be afraid to ask questions. Our panelists are very willing of their time, and thank you very much for that. But, you know, there might be some people who've submitted multiple times and maybe just don't know where they're going wrong, so we may as well use the expertise while we can. Orla, did you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Olga. Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question about timescale. Like, when does this need to have happened for it to be a submission?
I think, Deb, actually, we were chatting earlier about a submission that you had previously submitted. If you want to just maybe share your takeaway just in terms of the timings.
Yeah, and I think, can you hear me? Just to make
We
sure
can.
you can hear me. Okay,
Yep.
perfect. I was, yeah, so we certainly were. And I think what's come across from me, from the panel, and thanks so much to everyone for sharing all of your great initiatives and activities. And just before I come back to that, what I've also taken away is how everything is still continuing and expanding, which is brilliant. So that's testament to everyone's entries and award-winning entries that they've shared. But yeah, I think, coming back to what you were saying, Orla, it appears to me that everyone is the ones, certainly the ones that are winning and being recognised, they're established projects. And certainly that was the feedback that came back to an entry that we'd submitted from ATU before, and the fact that, yes, it was a strong submission, but it perhaps wasn't long enough. We hadn't had enough time to evaluate or review it to be able to look at the impact in as much detail as perhaps what the award-winning submissions have done. And I think there's also, I think when the judges give the general feedback, there's certainly always something about metrics, and testimonials are really seen to be a positive addition. So I don't know, has anyone from the panel got any experience then in terms of how do you fit the testimonials into the 250 kind of small categories and the metrics? Yeah. Does anyone get any tips or tricks of that?
I'm happy to pop in there. Just, I suppose, to address the timeline point you mentioned there, Deb. I originally was going to submit the project the very first year of Feature Friday, and after going through, I had data, I had metrics, but after discussing with Angela at the time, we thought, you know what, we'll give it another year, and that definitely gave us a lot more richer information, richer data. We ended up with four, as I said, 4 semesters of data and insights from Instagram, but also we had so much feedback from all the stakeholders, which provided the basis for our testimonials. So having gone back to the companies after the first year, we had all this feedback. I suppose to get it into the 250, whereas that was a challenge. It was constantly writing and rewriting and refining. I'd say 5 or 6 versions, and really trying to get things down concise to the point. The best thing, I suppose, I tried for every point that I made, I tried to have either a data metric or a testimonial, or both where possible. but it was just literally to have backup for every point I made. So it was difficult, and it was a lot of refining, a lot of rewriting. One thing I would definitely recommend to everybody is to have your submission reviewed, obviously by the team, within the team. So I had given it out to Avril and to Rebecca, who would have been familiar with the project, so that they could see that I had hit the key points and that I hadn't left out anything, and then obviously implemented any suggestions from them. But it was also very important to get feedback from somebody who wasn't necessarily familiar with the project, so getting it from an external person, because I felt that if someone external to the department who wasn't familiar with the project could understand understand the project, understand the submission, and understand the points I was getting at, and that it was addressing all the criteria, that I felt the judges would then understand it as well. So that's just one recommendation I would give you, to have somebody familiar with the project and somebody who knows very, very little about it to review your submission, to give you some feedback.
That's a really good point, Circa, because sometimes when we're so close to something, we know exactly what we're talking about, but others may not. So that's a really good tip. Fionnuala, did you want to come in?
Yes, thank you. They're all excellent points. I think the key difference for us this time in terms of the submission, and Niamh, you can comment on this as well, I think it was the actual creation of the poster, because the poster had to tell the story. And if you looked at the poster, it reflected both internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, students. It had all the key elements. And so if you looked at your written submission, it prompted you to put in the key things that stood out in the poster. At least that's how I felt. It was the visual was really good, and reinforced the application, the submission.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Fionnuala. Derek.
Yeah, I was just going to come in on a couple of things. One, on teamwork. Like, Anna and I have a lot of things in common in terms of the roles that we have at NCAD, but we'd never actually worked together before. So having the opportunity to work collaboratively with her on this particular, competition entry was a really great experience for me. She's a super editor, and I would send her draft copy, and she would come back, and I have to say she's very ruthless. She's a very hard taskmaster, and she was able to say to me, "Where's the testimonials? Where's the evidence of the analytics and so on?" So off I'd go and try and generate that. But without that, our application and submission wouldn't have been anywhere near as good as it ended up being. So I really appreciated that. And in hindsight, I definitely want to work with her again, or have somebody with her editorial skills, because that was really useful. But just on the poster, the research poster bit of it was the best bit of the project for me, because I suppose I am a designer, and although I'm not a graphic designer, we felt the need to employ one. So we had a recent graduate, Tara Lynch, design a range of sort of what I would describe as marketing assets, branding assets, that we could use, little icons, little illustrations, and so on. And we used those in our Motivational Mondays kind of initiative. And then I was able to keep those on file and then put them into Illustrator and create an A0 poster. And at the same time that I was doing that, I was also working, a member of the Teaching and Learning Committee at NCAD, and our colleague Renee was organising an event a few months after that. And there were real questions around what the research posters should look like. So this is a really great test case for us to try something out, use our own print facility here at NCAD to do prototypes and so on. So we learned a tremendous amount from that. So we'll be better equipped next time round. So it was a really useful exercise. I don't know, Anna, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, a couple of things. Firstly, I was very grateful of Derek's design background for the posters. And, I think the Canva training that's been organised by Caroline in the last couple of weeks, and obviously there's recordings of those sessions as well, I think they're going to be really, really helpful for people that are making submissions that might be a bit more confident in the submission, but less so in the poster campaign that goes with it. But overall, the whole event where the posters were shared, where we were engaging, people were asking questions live, it was really fantastic. I only wish I'd had a bit more chance to go to the other posters and to speak to people that had made those submissions. But alongside that, Derek had mentioned that we had a recent graduate involved with creating some of those assets for the poster, but they were also used on our social media campaigns around Motivational Mondays as well. So from an employability point of view, while it wasn't, I suppose, what you might expect in terms of how we were addressing employability in terms of our stats as part of the submission, it was a direct way of literally employing a recent graduate, which was really important to us and something we'd like to do more of, but it maybe didn't, it might have looked a little bit different to other submissions in terms of the employability statistics to back up the submissions.
Okay, perfect. I guess what I'm hearing from your stories is that there's a lot of I suppose tweaking and editing and collaboration required to kind of get everything into the neat little boxes that are there, and certainly Anna's ruthlessness in that regard is a required element for a winning submission. We're learning that today. So so I guess just in terms of, was there anything in the judges' feedback specifically that you kind of, that stood out to you just in terms of maybe something they said about your submission that might be just helpful for others?
I can start there. Sorry, Finola, you just popped up your hand. Just getting in ahead, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah,
but it was really just to touch on the testimonials piece. So it was called out for us that it was great to see so many testimonials included to support points made. However, in the first section, would have liked to have seen statistics of success to back these testimonials up, and that was really, really fair feedback. I think Derek and I both admitted that was completely fair. But the testimonials piece, I think we'd maybe again kind of approach it in a slightly different way, and we had that whole section looking for positive outcomes and impact was direct quotes. So I know something that had been mentioned earlier in the session, and that 250 word count is quite challenging. So we just applied direct quotes there across a mix of stakeholders.
Okay, perfect. Derek, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, just as a small thing, it's funny, it was an afterthought for me, and scrambling to get testimonials at the end wasn't really the way that you would, if I'd known that at the start, I wouldn't have done it that way. You can collect them as you go. But even a simple thing of, going through emails that I'd received from interviewees or people that had read the interview series and wanted to be part of it, they became really valuable in terms of testimonials. And again, one of the questions that you'd asked us in preparation for this is, what sort of software are you using? It was just Google Docs, Google Sheets. There wasn't anything tremendously complicated, but it's a really good way of logging everything as you go. So I think, again, I've already stressed that this was a great learning exercise for us, and I think we'll be better placed next time round. So, just that would be my advice. Collect as you go so that you have it there. And also use Google Analytics. We have Elena Quintana, our colleague who works part-time on our social media and website. She was able to give us analytics on sort of the engagement levels and so on. So if you're somebody who's really good on analytics, it's really useful too.
Perfect. Fionnuala, you wanted to come in.
Yeah, no, I was just going to give you one of the feedback we got, which was excellent initiative with an inclusive and agile approach, which can and has been adopted by other HEIs. And it prompted me to reminded me actually that we did, because we had done Design Your Life through Stanford, we had actually curated an article to share with our community, our Design Your Life community, through the Stanford Life Design Times, I think they call it. And as a result of that, we were contacted by McMaster University, by another university that I can't remember or pronounce the name of in Chile. And also there was an Erasmus program that Niamh and Ciara did. So between all of that, we had mentioned that in our submission, and it was also in our poster. So it was deducted from that correctly, so that we had engaged in Design Your Life, in influencing other universities to consider and learn from other universities, which we did with Porto, how they had adopted it for their particular student cohort.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Fionnuala. Sorcha, is there anything you wanted to add there?
I was looking at, I suppose, the judges' overall feedback. I think that probably went to everybody. And one of the things they said was submissions that fared best contain the following key features: rationale, testimonials, stats of success, and clarity of evidence of impact. And in our case, we clearly provided what the challenge students, employers, us as a career service and the academic staff were facing. And we really drilled down as to how the project addressed each of those challenges and provided the backup with testimonials and data. Some of the feedback we got from them was an excellent submission demonstrating why the resource was required and the benefits of executing in such an effective manner. Interesting for students to review careers they had not considered, smart move to Instagram, positive to see academics more connected to employers. Good use of existing social media platforms to engage students on their terms. So as I'd mentioned earlier, was meeting students where they were at. And well thought out initiative and well structured submission. The initiative seems to be informed by students themselves, promoting the event on social media channels, increase employer visibility among students on the platforms they are engaging with. Clear that this initiative has been shared and used. So really, as I said, I would be emphasising, identifying the challenge, if there is one, if that's what you're doing, identifying the challenge, and obviously identifying the ways in which you're addressing that for all stakeholders involved, and also then the backup, evidence of impact and the data to prove that as well.
Okay, so I think we're really hearing from everyone. I think it's a question actually as well. One question was, in terms of demonstrating impact, is data the most impactful? But I think it's a mix. From what you're saying, it's a mix of both testimonials and then the data to back that up as well is kind of what you found to be most successful.
Yeah, if I could just add there, in some ways it would have been difficult to quantify, for example, for academic staff, the impact unless they were telling us themselves how they were using it. Whereas obviously through Instagram and the analytics, we were able to see how people were engaging with it. And obviously then from an employer point of view, from reviewing it semester on semester, we were able to see the increase in employers engaging with it, and obviously, as I mentioned earlier, the repeat submissions from employers and also the new submissions. So it was those were the easy parts to quantify. So much so for the academic staff, it was definitely kind of going out and getting the testimonials directly from them as well.
Okay, perfect. Conscious of the time, Deb, is there any other questions we need to ask?
There's no other questions that are coming into the chat, but I suppose I just want to pick up on what Derek was saying in terms of the tools, and saying that you weren't using any, it wasn't that you were having to kind of resource or use expensive kind of tools or resources for the different initiatives and activities. Has anyone got any other tools or anything that they used in terms of their activities, or would that be echoed across the panel today in terms of what they utilised for their initiative? Am I taking silence as that there was anything in particular? Yeah, go on, Fionnuala, thanks.
Yeah, I guess when we were planning, so I suppose the first time we ran the program, we sat down as a team afterwards, and this comes back to the fact that it was a whole team effort, and we reflected on how we delivered, how the students reacted to certain activities or lack of activities. They wanted more activities, kind of activities. And I do think that does generate in itself amongst the student community a demand and interest, and people talk about it. So I think that was one of the things we took away. And the other one was the use of getting the permission to use images. So we took photographs with the permission of activities, the layout of the room, the templates we used, all of that. So we started collecting collateral that we can use again and again. So I think those are the things that are kind of hidden, but actually will make a difference in the end in terms of your submission.
That's true, and I suppose, Fionnuala, that's nice evidence that doesn't eat into your word count. So that's a good tip for sure.
I suppose going on to the images, sorry, Olga, I was just thinking in terms of, did you all create collages, or was it one image that you used as kind of as that graphic or representation of your submissions? Can you remember even? You know, you can attach an image with your actual submission, so I don't think it's necessarily judged as part of the judging process, but it certainly is a graphical representation away from the actual poster presentation that we would have included the last year.
I think we would have put in, sorry,
Fionnuala, go ahead.
Sorry, I forgot I had my microphone on. We did create a Design Your Life logo, and we did include that in our submission.
I was going to say we used recognizable icons. You know, Tara Lynch did a terrific job, you know, developing a suite of assets that we could use. But the other thing that we included, which I thought was really clever, was a QR code, which linked what we were doing to our actual website and social. And that's a really easy thing to do.
Great tip. And Sorika?
For our submission, our poster was pretty much in line with the graphic that we submitted with the actual project submission. It was really simply a collage of all the companies, the logos of all the companies that were involved. So over the 2 years, so if I remember off the top of my head, I think we had 196 companies at that point, with about 270 submissions from those 196 companies over the 4 semesters. But it was very, I think it did pop out with you when you see the vast array of logos on the poster, to see the actual engagement that was that came from industry, and then it was just a simple explanation of what the project was, and you know how it ran, where it ran, and when it ran, and that was it.
That's a really good tip, actually, Sorka, because that's very impactful, and I suppose that it really goes to, I suppose, evidence everything, again, not eating into your word count. So that's another really good tip. Perfect. I think we're kind of running out of time. I think there's, unless there's any burning questions or anything else the panel would like to add as a final tip.
Just submit.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, go for it. I would say if it's something you're working on as a passion project, you know, and you value it and you feel really strongly about it, then it's going to be much easier to write those submissions, and it's going to come across.
Perfect. Thank you.
And we just had one question into the chat. So can we confirm the poster is a separate item and not part of the initial application? So my belief is that it is. It was something that was created for the kind of the training day, or the kind of the networking event prior to the Grad Island Awards, and it was, I found that particularly useful. Because last year, in terms of being able to go around and speak to the people who were obviously had award entries, and just finding out more about the projects, and just asking those different questions, and just finding out about the kind of the detailed aspects of the different projects that you wouldn't necessarily fully kind of understand from the actual posters themselves. So I thought that was great.
Perfect. Well, look, we'll leave it there. We're conscious that lunchtime is nearly over. We'll give you a few minutes back. I'd really like to thank all of the panelists today for your very generous sharing about your experiences. It's been really, really fantastic. I know there's huge interest in this area, and there's a lot of people who maybe would be a little bit apprehensive about submitting something. So even to hear about all of the different stories, the different styles, has been really, really enlightening. So thank you so much, genuinely, for your time today and for all of your inputs. So with that, I think we'll close, Deb.
Absolutely. Thanks everyone. Yeah, no,
Thanks,
brilliant.
everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Bye.
Thanks, Olga.
Bye-bye.